Hello everyone. In today's screencast, we're going to think about and look at what we do when we get an article. How do we start with it? How do we do what we call previewing, looking before we read, and pre-reading? What do we read before we actually sit down and read the article? So again, what do you do when you first get an article? Open it up, start reading. Well, what you should do is look at it. Take a minute and just look at it. Ask yourself, is this a photocopy of an article? Is it the article in a book? Is it in a magazine or a journal, newspaper? Are you reading online? How many pages? How many sections? How many paragraphs? And what else is in the article? Do you see pictures or photos or maps or graphs? All of this can give you information about the article. So what you need to do is ask yourself, what is the topic of the text? What is this text about? Let's take a closer look at an article. Well, first of all, we want the source. The source is the name of the magazine or journal or book where the article is published. Sometimes you'll see this. This is the URL. This is where the article can be found on the internet. The internet is just like a big library. It has lots and lots of articles. It has lots and lots of books and websites and many different things. But our source is always the name of the book, the article, or the journal that the article was published in. It could be published in a book, it could be published in a magazine, and that book can appear in a library or be found on the internet. The next thing we want to look at is the title. Here, the ecological impact of the Industrial Revolution. So it gives us the topic of the text. What's it going to be about? It's about the Industrial Revolution and its connection to ecology. We need the author, the person who wrote the article, and here we see by Eric McLam. The other thing we want to look at are sections. Sections are groups of paragraphs, and they often have a section heading, which is a kind of title. We see in the beginning, the first section, paragraphs 1, 2, and 3, doesn't have a section heading. It's a kind of introduction. Many times, the first section does not have a section heading. The next section heading, the Industrial Revolution and Population Growth. We know that this section will be about the connection between these two things, the Industrial Revolution and population growth. And here we have a graph that probably relates to population growth. We can see differences. And we also have information about the figure or the graph. It can give us information or it can give us the source. And just as a reminder, this is a paragraph. And all of these sentences are connected together. So in this section, we have 3 paragraphs. Here, here, and here. How do we know it's a paragraph? Well, here this is jumped. It should be here, but there's a spot here, and there's a space here. Okay. Again, we have another article, and here we can see the source. It's from something called the report. We see the title, the next bubble. We see a picture. We see paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, 5. We see the author. And here we have what we call a subtitle, taking stock of our irrational exuberance. So here we have a word that we might not know, and that's a word we need to look up. Here we have our page number. So again, we need to read selectively. We look for our source. We look for the title, the next bubble. We look for the author or authors. What do I know about them? I look for a blurb, which is a longer subtitle, and that's always underneath the title. And I look to see if there are section headings. Here there aren't real section headings, but what do I see here? A big A, a big S. In other words, the paragraphs here are all connected, and the paragraphs here will also be all connected. And again, I ask myself, what do I know about the topic of the text? What more do I know? What do I know personally about the topic? And now you need to set your goal for reading. What do you need to know? What do you need to do with the information? It could be something, it's not always answering questions for English, but it could be for working on a project or writing a paper or something you need to know for one of your courses. And then you have to decide, how will I make that information accessible in the future? When I go back and need to look at the article again, to write my paper, to make my presentation. And here I have to make decisions. Do I want to underline text? Do I want to highlight? Do I want to make notes in the margin? And that's a personal decision. So, yep, now you're ready to go to preview and pre-read before reading your article.